Botta u risposta ser jiġu wassal lilkom minn Beauty Wisdom, ejabed.com, Gamebreaker, Kicks Boutique Gym u The Barber Room. Antonella Bella jisemmilkom jotinkom merħba għal program speċjali mis-sensiela Botta u Risposta. Mhux soltu illi dan il-program isir f'dan il-ħin u f'din il-ġurnata, imma xifti ta' ġranet ilu, anki grazzi għal Leeds United Supporters Club Malta, kena l-opportunità illi nintervistaw l-ex player ta' Leeds United fis-snin 60, Paul Rini, illi kienu Malta wkoll fuq stedina tal-klabb lokali ta' Leeds United. Għalda stant jiena u ġitni idea wkoll li navviċina lil dan il-klabb biex naraw x'possibilità hemm li nintervistaw lil Paul Rini. U kif se jintaraw ukoll f'dina l-intervista li għamilna jiena u Wayne McAuliffe, kienet intervista tajba ħafna, għoldiri għandha ħafna spunt interessanti l-dassan nistidinkom biex għal-3 kwarti li jmiss tibqaw magħna ħalli ukoll tisimgħu ftit x'għandu xi jgħid dan l-ex player internazzjonali u glorja ta' tim minn Yorkshire. Tebqu nfakrukom illi dan il-programm ukoll sar possibbli anki grazzi għal ejabed.com illi provdulna il-premises tagħhom għal dina l-intervista illi għamilna għal daqstant grazzi Ejabed. Imma qabel ma nkomplu ħanaraw ftit din l-iskeda illi ippreparalna Mark Schembri fuq Paul Rini biex l-ewwel insiru nafu minnu. U mbagħad nibdew l-intervista illi kif qednilkom diġà għamilnilu jien u Wayne McAuliffe. Għaldaqstant nifqu mill-introduzzjonijiet u nibdew bil-programm tagħna. L-iskeda ta' Paul Rini. Tlaqna.
Paul Rini twieled Fulham, Londra, l-Ingilterra nhar 22 Ottubru 1944. Huwa kien jilgħab fil-pożizzjoni ta' difensur lemin. Il-biċċa l-kbira tal-karriera ta' Paul Rini kienet ma' Leeds United, fejn bejn l-1962 u l-1978 huwa lagħab 556 logħba u skurja 6 goals bil-blok l-abjad tat-tim minn Elland Road. Fl-1978 hu ġie trasferit lejn Brentford City fejn magħhom lagħab 38 logħba f'żewġ staġuni. Fl-1980 Paul Rini mar ġewwa l-Awstralja fejn lagħab 53 logħba ma' Newcastle KB United qabel ma rtira fl-aħħar tal-1981. Fost l-unuri mirbuħa minn Paul Rini fil-karriera tiegħu ma' Leeds United insibu żewġ kampjonati Ingliżi fl-1968, 69 u l-1973 u 1974. Kampjonat tat-tieni diviżjoni fl-1963-64, l-FA Cup tal-istaġun 1971-72 u l-Liga ta' l-istaġun 1967-68. Barra minn hekk Rini rebaħ it-tazza tal-Firi, l-Europa League tal-lum għal darbtejn fl-1967-68 u l-1970-71. Paul Rini lagħab biss 3 klobiet mat-tim nazzjonali Ingliż. L-aħħar dehra tiegħu bil-flok ta' 3 iljuni kienet proprju f'pajjiżna, meta fit-3 ta' frar tal-1971 u kien lagħab il-logħba valida around ta' kwalifikazzjoni għall-Euro 72 fl-Istadium tal-Gżira kontra Malta. Dakinhar l-Ingilterra kienet rebħet din il-logħba bl-iskor ta' 1-0.
Hi Paul, first of all, welcome to our show, and we would like also to thank you for accepting our invitation. It's an honor for us as a small Facebook page and YouTube channel that we can have the honor to have a former player of your caliber. So the first question that we would like to ask you is what are the factors which decided that you should play football at right back?
That was down to a fantastic manager, Don Revie, because when I first went to Leeds as a young 16-year-old, I was a forward player, played either centre forward or played either right wing, simply because at school I used to play for the Leeds City Boys in the forward position. So having a look at me, he then reverted me down to centre half, which my father was quite happy with, etc. After 3 months, he then moved me to right fullback. This is a manager that knows exactly what he's doing with certain players. My father wasn't happy, so he went down to the ground, which he was entitled to, and Don Revie said to my father, just give me 1 month, just 1 month. After 1 month, my father went back down to Leeds and said, I'm really sorry, Mr. Revie, you know what you're doing. And it started off being a right back. He kind of felt that because I had speed, a certain amount of speed, and not that tall, a right back situation was better than a centre half situation. And then I know things, we then say that everything's history, but then I had to learn my trade. I've been taken around by some fantastic people today and seen some kids and talked to the coaches, talked to the kids, and one thing I say to the children is please listen. Number one, please listen to the coaches because they know what they're doing. Number two, listen to your parents to a certain extent, but after saying all that, then you've got to do it on yourself. You know, you can't be looking at everybody saying what do we do now, what do we do now. So if you're good enough, fingers crossed, you'll make it.
So from what I'm understanding, it seems that your father was expecting you to play at a different position.
Yeah, simply because sometimes that's what adults do. They think sometimes they know best until they come up against top managers and top coaches, and then they've got to understand that they know the business, and fathers and mothers all want the children to do fantastic and they push them to a certain extent, but then they've got to let the top people do it.
So you joined Leeds United at the time that Don Revie has started his revolution down at Elland Road. Did you really believe that you could transform yourself from a mediocre second division club to getting 2 second places in the first division in such a short time?
Yes, it did. Really, because of the talent that was at Elland Road then. The talent was that I talk a lot now, and I talk to kids and I talk to people, but I didn't then. So I was learning my trade like I've just mentioned before. So we've got fantastic coaches in Sid Owen and Les Cocker and Bob English. And then we had, if I say the gaffer, I mean Don Revie, right? But on top of that, we have fantastic players. And Don Revie created these fantastic players. So when we talk about money now being spent, millions and millions of pounds, a lot of our players, Billy Bremner, top player, nothing. Johnny Giles, £35,000. Norman Hunter, nothing. Paul Reaney, nothing. Gary Sprake, our goalkeeper, nothing. Alan Clark, 165,000. He was perhaps the most. Mick Jones, 100,000. But there was a lot of us kids, and we got brought up under Don Revie, under the training staff. So to answer your question, yes, because we was that good, we were still learning, but we were a strong side, and we just had to give it a little bit of time to get up there.
So you think that Don Revie really was the most influential to getting you to the position you were in?
Yeah, simply because nobody knows what Don Revie was like. Don Revie was, how can I put it? It was, let's say, my second father or our second father. So he knew exactly what to do. He knew how to treat you. If you wasn't playing that well, he knew how to combat that. Not particularly shout at you, but perhaps show you a situation. The players that he groomed together, we all kind of gelled. It was an amazing situation, whereas nobody liked playing against Leeds. We knew that, and simply because we were physical. When I say physical, I don't mean dirty. I know we got called dirty to Leeds, but whatever. We were kind of physical, and teams didn't like to play against us. Because of that, we used to look after one another. If somebody had an hard tackle on you, you wouldn't be happy. But we used to say to you, now settle down. And we used to look after you in other ways. you understand that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
What's striking me a lot is that there was an element which you can't see it much in modern football, which is the element of patience, element of taking time and for a team to gel together and then get the result, something which unfortunately today we don't see with managers come and go, sometimes even 2-3 managers at a particular club at one season.
Yeah, but you've got to then appreciate that things have changed. Things have changed into a situation whereas Don Revie, Bill Shankly, Liverpool, Brian Clough before he came to Leeds, they used to run the club situation. So that means that if they wanted a player, they would go and look at the player, not send somebody else to go and look at the player. They knew how to run a football club. How can I put this? If I can put one particular game, we had a game against Nottingham Forest away from home. And we did well and we had a good win. So Don Revie said to the players, okay, well done guys, you can go in the players lounge, you can have one drink, be on the coach for 6 o'clock. Then he went to directors and he said to the 5 Leeds directors, on the coach for 6 o'clock because we're going back to Leeds, everything okay. We're on the coach at 6 o'clock, 2 directors missing, and he said to the coach driver, on you go, and left the 2 directors of a football club, whatever. So the situation then comes to a board meeting. These 2 directors then halfway through say, oh, Mr. Revie, what you actually did was you left us at Notts Forest. So he says, yes, gentlemen, I said 6 o'clock and he wasn't there. Okay, next. So I'm saying that they used to run a football club. Bill Shankly at Liverpool was Don Revie's, one of his real friends. But remember, Leeds United used to play against Liverpool. So that was a different thing on that particular day game. After the game, great again. And they used to talk to one another again. But managers used to get on with managers.
And we were talking about Don Revie, who for you, the players, was like a second father.
Yeah.
For the team and the city of Leeds, he
Yeah.
was, let's say, sort of a god.
Yeah.
What were his best qualities?
His best qualities as number one, he was a gentleman, but he used to look after you. When I'm saying look after you, he used to look after your family as well. So that means a Christmas situation, or the kids he used to look after. If we was ill or our family was ill, we didn't have to go to the doctors. The doctors used to come to us. So he arranged everything like that. If I can tell you that I have now been, my next wedding anniversary will be 56 years. One of my friends that's away, Norman Hunter, he would have been 56 years. Alan Clark, that's still with us now, he is 56 years. Now, if I can put it this way, that if this gentleman outside of me was a lady, and I was going out with this girl, Don Revie would want to meet you, right? Then we go down to the ground, whatever. If he thinks that's going all right, remember, he's not my dad. If he thinks things look all right, then he would encourage you to get engaged. If that works, he would encourage you to get married. If you get married, you get a bonus.
Oh,
For every child you have, you get a bonus. So what is he doing? In number one, we are football players. Football players sometimes, this day and age, all right, there are certain ladies that want to go out with footballers or go out with entertainers or whatever. So what he's doing is, now I'm married, now I've got children, now I've got responsibilities. So when I finish the game, I don't want to go out. I want to go back to my kids and my family or whatever. So he is creating now a situation for players, right? And we are now a team. Remember that, well, you don't remember, but we were a team that played a lot of football and we played a lot of games and we were together. I will say that today this would not happen. So we used to go to big hotels and we used to run in and look at the carpet of the hotel. Simply because then he used to encourage us to play carpet bowls on that night. So all the lads are together and we play carpet bowls. After we've done carpet bowls, he would get certain things out. We would play bingo. What? We would play bingo before a game. Because this is, Don Revie, this is a team situation. Can you see a team now playing bingo before a game or playing carpet bowls or whatever.
Everyone with his mobiles.
That's it. Forget that. But this is it. But we played that many games, like I've said. So we used to play on a weekend. Then we was in Europe. We used to play 75, 80 games sometimes in a season. Players say today, I can't play all them games. We used to play game after game. Sometimes we play 3 games a week because we're in every competition. So then people say, but you didn't win many trophies. So, well, we won trophies, but let's face it, that if you play 75 games and then you get to 3 finals, that is the end of a season, a rocketing season, you know. So sometimes, right, things don't go well. You've got to be. Sometimes we've got let down by certain things. I'm not going to go at referees here, but on one particular occasion, a referee got bribed in a top final, and they found out, but we didn't get a second game. I know that, so this is what happens sometimes. People don't realise and don't know what is happening, but this is how the game is. So we used to have sometimes our wives come and visit us in the hotel because the next day we're away in Europe again. So we won't see his kids, but this is what the gaffer did. So we are now a family. We are all a family. I'm looking after you, you're looking after me, we're looking after his family. So we're a team. Outside, people used to boo, used to give a stick, whatever. It didn't matter because we had Leeds United, and them supporters of Leeds United, we say that, Liverpool's good supporters and Tottenham's good supporters. There is something about Leeds United supporters. Perhaps they're not doing that well at this moment in time. There are 36, 37, 38,000 supporters going. It's incredible. We've got that much support. Today, I would say that players would not be able to walk around. In our day, you could walk around. Somebody would see me and say, all the best, Paul, all the best, Saturday, son, and that's it. Now, can you sign this, can you sign that, and you're there an hour. It's completely different. Their supporters are incredible. At Leeds United, because we stayed at a club so long, you had to be there 10 years, and then you got testimonial. Year after year after year after year, the supporters turned up, and it's expensive. All them games, and now they're supporting you in your testimonial games. It's incredible support.
So, outside Leeds, however, you weren't exactly the team which people liked a lot, with many managers, particularly Brian Clough, criticising openly your style of play. Why do you think it was so?
It was only because the two managers didn't like one another. Don Revie and Clough did not like one another. So, of course, Brian Clough didn't like Don Revie's team. That's why we can't really understand, well, I can to a point, why he came to Leeds, right?
Because we'll have a question, we'll have another question.
Oh, you've got another question? Oh, okay, right. So, the thing is, no, they didn't like one another. Certain things, one thing happened to Clough that perhaps wasn't fair. There was something happened on Yorkshire Television, and Brian Clough were getting interviewed, and Don Revie got brought into the situation, which Brian Clough didn't know that. But I put it down then to the television company because they encouraged Don Revie to go, and it was a bit of a slanging match in that situation, so that wasn't on. But they just didn't like it, and then there was a programme brought out, The Damn United. The Damn United was 25% through, end of, that is it. And I think the thing that let Brian down really was his second in control. He didn't come with him. That was Peter Taylor. If Peter had come as well, he might have got away with situations, bad cop, good cop situation. But Brian came on his own, and it was very, very difficult because if you don't like somebody, do you play for them? And there were certain lads that didn't really, because they didn't like one another. Very difficult.
We'll get to the Clough better later on. However, you were mentioning the subject of maybe allegations of bribery, etc. And one match which still gets to my mind was a match in the late part of the 70-71 season when you played at West Brom, and there was this forward, I think it's Jeff Essill, who scored a goal which clearly was irregular.
Yeah.
Do you think it helped? Maybe there was a condition of this bad culture against Leeds?
I don't think it was against Leeds. This was, again, an FA situation here. Remember, there was no VAR situation there. Jeff Asser was definitely offside because I was the last man as a defender.
So you remember the episode clearly?
Well, yeah, because I was the last man. I think Brown had the ball, and if he'd have run, and he won the ball, this is how the goal was. Norman Hunter had the ball on the halfway line, and he passed it, and Brown got the ball. Now, he started running towards our goals. Right? If he'd have run and scored, not a problem, because he got it in half. But what he did was, he passed it to Jeff Hurst. I am there. So I knew that Jeff Hurst was offside, right? And said, well, if he scored, it didn't make any difference. He scored, and they give the goal. Now, the only thing that happened there was, I think there were two people run on the pitch. Can't remember anymore. I don't know if the gaffer walked onto the pitch. Just have a
I
video.
think he did.
Did he walk on the pitch? Okay. And one guy got taken off, and then the FA banned us for 6 games, I think it was, because we had to play at Huddersfield Town for that particular one thing. So, and then we lost, but I know you only got 2 points for in there, and then we lost the championship by 1 point. So that didn't go down well with us or the supporters.
So, thanks Paul, the first part of the show, l-ewwel parti tal-programm tieqa' hawnhekk, ibqgħu magħna ħalli mmorru għal blokk qasir ta' riklami. Beauty Wisdom tal-Fgura għall-aħjar prodotti u servizzi ta' sbuħija. Żuru wkoll Nails by Xarawna fl-istess stabbiliment għall-aħjar servizz ta' trattament ta' dwiefer. Ilab u irbaħ flimkien mal-Kamra Sportiva u Kicks Boutique Gym. Kull ma trid tagħmel huwa li tafas like fuq ix-xandira botta u risposta li qed taraw bħalissa u tafas follow fuq il-paġna ta' Kicks Boutique Gym. Jekk tagħmlu dan, intom titlu biċ-ċans li tirbħu sħubija ta' xahar ma' Kicks Boutique Gym li jinsab ġewwa Daniels Shopping Mall fil-Ħamrun. Bir-rebbieħ eventwali jitħabbar fl-ewwel programm tax-xahar ta' wara tas-sensiela botta u risposta. Kicks Boutique Gym, il-post ideali għalik biex issir iżjed b'saħħtek u tħossok iżjed aħjar. Merħba lura t-tieni parti tal-programm Botta u Risposta fejn flimkien miegħi u ma' Wayne Mikallef illum għandna l-ex-player tal-Leeds United u player internazzjonali Ingliż Paul Rini li qegħdin nagħmlu l-intervista fejn diġà qed inqajmu ħafna punti interessanti minn forsi rid jgħaddi xi kumment tal dak kollu li qegħdin taraw tistgħu tagħmlu dan fis-sezzjoni marbuta max-xandira tagħna llejla. Nirringrazzjaw ukoll il-ejabed.com illi tawna il-premises tagħhom biex nkunu nistgħu wkoll nagħmlu din l-intervista. Wayne, inkomplu?
Inkomplu. George Best once said that there were 2 defenders who really gave me a lot of trouble. Paul Rini from Leeds United and Sanchez from Real Madrid. How flattering is it to receive such a comment from arguably the best British player from the 60s?
Well, it was nice because George Best was a fantastic player. We didn't kind of talk to one another, but we had so much respect, it was untrue. The situation there was, again from our manager, if we played against Manchester United, it was 10 against 10. because wherever George went, I had to look after George. So that means I was out of position. George was out of position because he'd go anywhere, and I could kind of go with him. But both teams knew that, and I would imagine that Dunrevy would be happy if I could look after George best in that particular game, and then it was 10 against 10 situation. So great player, fantastic player. What else can I say about George? Flattering, it was nice, but all I was doing my job, but which I put it down to. There was a lot of good players out there, but George was a great player.
So you had to keep it like you had to keep your feet on the ground, like you couldn't. It was like really good to receive such a comment from a really great player, but you had to keep working hard and not let that comment like get into your mind, maybe.
A comment would never get to your mind. Your manager wouldn't allow that anyway. But as players, as professional players, you come up against different people, and if you play well against one particular one, you've still got other people, not just George. There's other left wingers that was really good players. So if one said that is great, but you don't get carried away with someone that says you are the best thing or whatever ever, because you know you've got another game. If you have a good game, you've got to be careful not to get carried away thinking, oh, he says I'm great, so all I've got to do is just mess about it because the knee's going to take you apart. Remember, when you play in a Premiership, you play against great players. Any day you could be taken apart, so you've got to concentrate. Again, that's what I say to kids. You know, you have a good game, don't think, that is it, I've made it, because the next game, you might have the worst game ever, and then you go down again. So it's not easy being a professional.
Despite being a good team, maybe the return wasn't that much, considering that you've won only 2 championships, won a FA Cup, and 2 Intercity Fairs Cup in your time, apart from losing many finals, and finished 5 times second in the league. First of all, do you consider it as a good return?
Oh yeah. When you think that you're in the, I mean, you finished 5 times second in such a top league with such teams like Liverpool's in Manchester City's in Manchester United's or whatever. So you haven't done bad because you don't win that. Somebody don't win at all. But the thing was, again, I put that down to the amount of games that we played. We played a lot of games. I've just been, when we're coming on the car there was all those, and there was another trophy called the West Riding Senior Cup. Now this was against teams like Halifax Town and in them days Bradford Park Avenue and teams like that. And the gaffer wanted to win them as well. These were teams that you should just take apart, eyes closed. But it was still another game to play, So you played that game, and then you had European Cup final, and then you had your Cup Winners' Cup final, and then you had your semi-finals. So games after game after game, we was an excellent side, and we won it twice, we won it 3 times, and we lost 5 times if you like, or we came second. Do you know what you get for second? You get an handshake. I'm sorry, but you get an handshake. If you win it, you get a trophy.
In fact, maybe I'm slightly digressing, but in Formula 1, former McLaren boss Ron Dennis used to say, second is the first of all losers. However, there were 2 finals which I would like you to talk us about them. The first one is in 1971 when you've won the Intercity First Cup against Juventus. What can you remember from that success?
That was, Juventus was an incredible side then. We played over there first, and we got a draw over there. Bad conditions. Again, this particular time, the manager let us take his wives there, although the wives were in a different hotel to us, because it got postponed because of the weather situation. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days after we actually played it, and we got a draw. So then we came home. The only time then we just needed a draw to actually win it, and we got a 1-1 draw at home. So against an unbelievable side, I'm talking about we must have been some side as well. That comes down to a great win for us. That.
And secondly, Wayne is an AC Milan supporter, And despite losing the 73 final, the Cup Winners' Cup, maybe you can tell us something about that match even for Wayne's sake.
Yeah. Why am I talking to you? Let me say that that was down to us. Some fans we lost wasn't down to us. The game against Sunderland was down to us. Reason is because the year before we beat Arsenal. Arsenal is the only team that Leeds could beat at Wembley. We beat them in the League Cup, we beat them in that one. And we had Wolverhampton Wanderers in the semi-final and Arsenal at Sunderland. And we looked up at the scoreboard, we'd just beaten Wolves and we just saw Sunderland and we thought, gee whiz. And we settled, our bodies settled. We wanted Arsenal again because you know how hard it was going to be, and we settled too much. And all right, things didn't happen in that day. One of my friends is Jim Montgomery. I was with Jim Montgomery last week. We were doing a competition, whatever. I also was roommate with Jim Montgomery for England under 23s, so I knew Jim, and he did unbelievable that day. He did incredible that day. And if we'd have scored, I'm saying that, if we'd have scored, it would be different. We just couldn't score against him, and that was a Sunderland day because they came to enjoy it. We came hot favourites after the Arsenal situation, hot favourites, and it was down to us that lost that.
Good. So we have spoken about Brian Clough in the first part of our show today. Now, in 1974, Don Revie moved on to the England manager job, and Clough came through, which was a huge surprise considering the rivalry that there was between Brian Clough himself and Leeds. Now, you have also said that the Damned United was not through the movie. What did really happen during those 44 days? At least from your perspective as a Leeds United player.
Right, well, it didn't work, or it wasn't going to work anyway. It was a late. When you talk about a new manager going to a football club and you're 3 days late, and you've got, again, top players, because we still had your Billy Brenners and your Johnny Giles, etc. And then somebody comes in, and then we have a meeting, and we thought it was a joke meeting to a situation, because he did say that good side, but the medals that you won, some of it cheated on it, so throw them in the bin. And we was looking for a laugh from him or whatever, but it was serious. It was completely serious, and we didn't get that. A manager coming in wanted to have us all on his side and saying certain things like that. So it didn't rate from that. He kind of was ringing Don Revie up. I think there was one situation in the Damned United where 2:30 in the morning and he rung Don Revie up. That was true. He did ring Don Revie up, and he did say that the players are not playing for me. And Don Revie said, because they're my team and they're not your team, and you knew that when you actually came. But the rest of the film, that was a movie, and people enjoyed the movie, but they didn't really know. For instance, we had a situation there where it showed you Brian Clough in the dressing rooms, cleaning the dressing rooms, getting wine ready for Don Revie, etc., getting all gogged up. And then supposedly we walked past him. Now what happened there was Don Revie did stop the coach to walk in, but there was no Brian Clough, because no way would the manager walk past somebody that's got all ready for him. And at least, I mean, if I didn't like you, I would shake your hand. I won't grasp it, but I'd shake your hand. I won't walk past you. Don Revie wasn't like that. So part of the film, another one was, I think, remembering the film, he went to Peter Taylor to his house, and he was on his hands and knees, going up there saying, will he come back, will he come back? That wasn't true, but it was all part of a film, and people thought that most of the film was right.
That's interesting. However, I'd like to go back on Revie. What really struck me is the family atmosphere that he created down at Leeds during your age. Definitely, I think it helped to create the strong side that you were eventually.
It was. I'm not just saying that to make it nice for Don Revie. If I can put another point about Don Revie.
Sure, go ahead.
In 1970, unfortunately, I got my leg broke, West Ham, so I missed out on the Mexico World Cup. where I was supposed to be going and playing anyway. And I did it at West Ham. And I'm talking about so many games. We just played against Celtic in the semi-final first leg of the European Cup on the Wednesday. And on the Thursday we're playing West Ham in a league game. Hello, things like that. In that particular game, I got my leg broke. So Don Revie came into the dressing room, and all I did was just held my hand. I'm on a stretcher, just held my hand until the ambulance came. And then the ambulance came, and then they took me to hospital. And then Don Revie left and went into the hotel at the Royal Gardens at that particular time. When the players actually got back after the game, couldn't find him. Couldn't find Don Revie. So Johnny Giles, looking all over, went up into his room and found him, and he's crying his eyes out. And he said, one of my little lads, he called me a little lad, one of my little lads has just broke his leg. Will he ever come back, Johnny? Will he ever come back? Will he ever come back? And Johnny Giles, of course he will, he's strong, Paul is strong. He will come back. Just have faith in him, he'll come back. So when a manager breaks down and cries because one of his lads, right, has broken his leg, this is a team situation. So everything that happened to us happened to him. It was incredible. Your situation of signing contracts, coming in for contracts, but I did say that managers used to look after it. So your contract time came completely different to us, because if I signed a 3-year contract, it went down to the last game, the last day rather. Now it can't. After 18 months, we've got to sign again, or else if they go down to the last day, they go anywhere on a free. So we've done Revie. Used to go in his office. Okay, Paul, what do you want? 3-year contract and X amount of pounds or whatever it is. Okay, sign that. And he's putting a blank piece of paper on the table for you to sign. Would you sign a blank piece of paper for a contract?
Nowadays I wouldn't.
Right, we did, because he said sign that. So as soon as I signed that blank piece of paper, I knew that I was going to get the money that I've asked for plus the 3-year contract, because he'd then go to directors and he'd say, okay, Porrier is on that, Norman's on that, Jack Charles on that, Billy Brendan's on that, etc. So that is, what is that? That is somebody that you trust 101%, as long as you do as you're told on the football pitch. Never, I see today that managers run, they go on their knees when somebody scores, and they're running up and down, and they're getting booked, etc., etc. Don Revie virtually hardly ever got off his seat, because we've been through everything, right? If you scored, we were supposed to score, right? If you let one in, don't do it again, etc. And it was like that. So it was a team that we knew what he wanted, and we tried to supply that. And 8 out of 10 we supplied it.
Thanks, Paul. Sammaru għal break ieħor qasir ta' reklami, ibqgħu magħna. Paul Rini will be back after the next advert break. Dawqat magħkom. Diversi offerti ta' Black Friday disponibbli għand Game Breaker. Żuru l-ħanut tagħna ġewwa Birkirkara u gawdu mill-aħjar offerti li qed noffru matul dan ix-xahar ta' Novembru fuq diversi logħob tal-PlayStation 4 u 5 kif ukoll fuq diversi aċċessorji relatati mal-gaming. Game Breaker, l-aqwa logħob tal-PlayStation, Xbox u Switch. Ilab u irbaħ flimkien mal-kamra sportiva u Kicks Boutique Gym. Kull ma trid tagħmel huwa li tafas like fuq ix-xandira botta u risposta li qed taraw bħalissa u tafas follow fuq il-paġna ta' Kicks Boutique Gym. Jekk tagħmlu dan, intom titlu biċ-ċans li tirbħu sħubija ta' xahar ma' Kicks Boutique Gym li jinsab ġewwa Daniels Shopping Mall fil-Ħamrun. Bir-rebbieħ eventwali
jitħabbar fl-ewwel programm tax-xahar ta' wara tas-sensiela Botta u Risposta. Kiks Boutique Gym, il-post ideali għalik biex issir iżjed b'saħħtek u tħossok iżjed aħjar.
Merħba lura għal program Botta u Risposta, l-lum għanna program speċjali fejn flimkien miegħi Antonello Abela u ma Wayne Micallef. Fil-lum għanna maħna today we have with us Paul Rini, the ex-Leeds United and England International. Nerġan nfakkarkom li min jixtieq ukoll jaddi xi kummenti fuq dak li qed nitkellmu fuq u forsi għandkom xi tifkira ta' Rini wkoll u ta' żminijiet ta' Leeds United tistgħu tagħmlu dan fis-sezzjoni li għandna marbuta ma' din ix-xandira. Infakrukom ukoll li din ix-xandira qed issir possibbli grazzi għal ejabed.com illi tawna l-premises ukoll biex inkunu nistgħu nagħmlu din l-intervista. Għaldaqstant grazzi wkoll lil Ejabed. Paul, let's now move on a bit on your international career. True, you haven't played many games for England, however, you did play here in Malta in 1971. What memories do you have of that match, which for us Maltese, it's still something of historical?
Yeah, to get on to not playing many international games, we had a strong international side here, and the way that particular goes, I was with the setup for maybe about 5 or 6 years without actually getting a kick because of George Cohen was the right back at that particular time. I'm talking about, say, World Cups. I will come back to your question, but talking about World Cups, 66, I was in the 40. What happens is you get selected in the 40, it then goes down to 28, then goes down to 22. The 22 then represent your kind of country. I was in the 40, but not in the 26. There was a guy called Jimmy Anfield that was in there, but George Cohen actually was right back then. So I'm in that kind of setup of great players, you know, your Bobby Mosley, Bobby Charltons, etc. So I had to wait my time here, and then it's my time. I played 523 games, and then it was my time. So I played 2 games, and then I got my leg broke. Now that was again before the Mexico situation, where if I'd have played there, if I hadn't have broke my leg there, who knows what happens. I then played another game against Malta. That was after my recovery from a broken leg. I've been to Malta before on holiday and on recovery, because after my broken leg, I came with Alan Clark and his wife and family to Malta for an holiday. Them days you could bring weights with you because there was nothing like that. To recover, whatever. So I got to know Malta. I've been before, so I knew the situation there. And then I got selected to play. I think it was a European game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the European qualifiers for 72.
That's right. It was that, and we had Malta. The pitch was not what we used to. So we did get an Alf Ramsey was manager there. So he brought us on the pitch and he said, if anybody didn't want to play, guys, I quite understand looking at the pitch. Well, nobody would kind of say, we don't want to play for England. So I remember that situation, and I remember that the crowd, it was funny because we didn't get booed or anything like that, and we got supported more than I thought. So the Maltese liked the English, as they're going to do when we're going to play Malta again soon, aren't we?
Yes.
That's right. So you watch our crowd and you watch the Maltese crowd give us a lot of shouting, because I think that happened. It was a good game. We only won 1-0 because they didn't play badly. We had a top goalkeeper in there, didn't we? And he played ever so well that game. So just Martin Peters scored the goal, and we went on from there. So that's all I really remember about that. I do remember the pitch. I know that it's not there anymore now. It's kind of gone since I played on it. I've just been to the new one today, which looks great. Looks superb. But that's what I remember about that.
So, going back to the 1970 World Cup, which you unfortunately missed due to an injury.
Yeah.
How disappointed were you that you couldn't get this opportunity of a lifetime?
Yeah, disappointed was an easy word to say, devastation would be the best. Like I said to you, 40, 28, 22. So you kind of looking at the situation, you get messages, you're in the 40. You get messages, then you're in the 28. You get messages, then you're in 22. So that means you're actually going to Mexico, right, to try and retain the World Cup. Then you get a message from Alf Ramsey saying you will be starting. So you've come from your 40, now you're going to be starting. Another Leeds player, they called him Terry Cooper, was going to be left back. Big Jack was playing, etc. So you had at least 3 Leeds players in that. And it was just then a build-up, and it was, you know, I'm going to play in something that I wanted to play in, a World Cup, we're going to try and retain it. To tell you the truth, we had as strong a squad in 70 as we did in 66. So we was really, really confident in there. I don't know if you remember how we got beat there. We were 2 up against Germany, weren't we? GM lost 3-2. Well, there you go. There's reasons for that maybe. But when you're in a situation like that and then you miss out and you've built up, so from coming from a young kid thinking, love football, need to learn it, to get into a World Cup situation, I know did I never play against, I played against Cruyff, etc. Never played against Pele. And the man I wanted to play against, I met Pele and I've been in his company and we've talked or whatever, never played against him. And who did England draw? Brazil. So I'd have been playing against Pele, you know. So it's just and then you've got to recover from that. Again, you've got Don Revie and you've got your Leeds mates or whatever. But I'll never ever forget the disappointment. Before I finish on that, we're talking now about a great team. The England team was a similar situation. If I can bring this to kind of finish on that, is that they were supported by a Ford Motor Company. So the 22 players got an England Ford motor car. I think it was a Cortina. I don't know if you remember Cortinas, right? A white, and it had an England badge or whatever, right? And I missed out. So when the guys came back, Norman Hunter and Jack Charlton came to my house, still got my pot on, still got my house, and says, Paul, we missed you, etc., etc. Look outside. I looked outside and there's an England car. What? And they says, yeah, all the players, I'm talking about now Bobby Moore and Martin Peters, etc., etc., has had a meeting with Ford and saying, hang on, he should have been here, he should have been playing, we want 23 cars. So the guys got us a Ford car. No need to, remember you play against West Ham, and you play against Spurs, and you play against all these sides, and all of a sudden they've got your car because you should have been there. So that's what we're like. That's what the England situation was like.
And moving a little bit, let's make a bit fast forward to this year's forthcoming World Cup. How do you rate England's chances in it?
Yeah, well, we've got the backing of a great ladies team, haven't we? The ladies teams are unbelievable, and they're all hoping that we're going to do it. These World Cup are not easy competitions, you know. You play against teams that's perhaps not supposed to be good as you, and then they pull something out of the bag. It's going to be difficult. I do fancy getting to the latter stages. Can I say that? Winning it, fingers crossed. We're good enough, but fingers crossed there. But it's going to be a hard competition.
So, moving on to the next question. Why did you choose to move to Australia in the latter part of your career, at a time when many veterans were moving to the United States and the famous, for those times, the NASL?
Yeah, it was simply because that in my time at Leeds, there was a manager called Alan Vest that was a manager out in Australia, and he came to Leeds and he asked for a meeting with me, and he said, if ever you fancy coming to Australia, I'll get you these terms, I'll look after your family, etc., etc. So I said, well, thanks for that, but it's a long way as Australia. It's a long way. So after Leeds, I went to Bradford City, simply because they were close to my home. Alan Clark left the same time as me. He went to Barnsley, I went to Bradford, etc. I was there for maybe about 18 months, and then all of a sudden, they got in touch with me again from Australia. So this is about a family situation. My kids then were 10 and 12 years old, a boy and a girl, naturally my wife, and it took my wife a quarter of an hour to come to terms with, yeah, we'll go. Great, unbelievable. We didn't sell us home, we didn't let it out because we knew we were kind of coming back, The kids were excited, so we went out to Australia. It was absolutely incredible. Now you go out simply because that you can't go on forever, and I didn't go out for holiday. I went out to teach more than anything else because these guys that I was playing with, they were nearly all semi-professionals. They had jobs as well. I didn't because I was coaching, but it was then helping them out as well because there were 16 teams in their league. They'd not got further than I think it was 10th in the league, and we finished 6th. That year, my first year in Australia, I got the Player of the Year. So again, it kind of proves that from what I've learned, now I am passing on to other people. That's why I've been coaching kids for 34 years. Just getting the kids, telling them what to look forward to, telling them what to do, telling them to listen. Like I said today, I had the kids today, guys, kids, they're 11, 12 years old, listen to coaches. They're here for a reason. Listen to mums and dads. They want to push you. After all that, what you've learned, then you do it. So don't ask, Dad, what do I do? Or what do I do? You've been taught that. And that's how I learned. Right, so I know I'm talking now, but I was so quiet, listening to coaches, listening to my players, hell of the players, and I've learned from that. And then you go on.
Back to Leeds and to the current situation, which at the time of recording this video in late October was a little bit disappointing. What do you think they need to do to turn the situation around?
Before answering the question, Paul, may I just remind the viewers that this video is being recorded prior to the Liverpool versus Leeds match, which, as even Wayne has spoken about, was played and on Saturday, the 29th of October.
Yeah, they've got a lot of hard work to do. You know, we've kind of started off last year. We had a different manager with us last year. He played a different way, and the training situation was aggressive, and teams were struggling to keep up to the kind of thing. It's kind of changed now. It's changed completely to a different format, and the players are finding it a little bit more difficult than they did under that one, under this manager. We're now, fingers crossed, open, because in some games, you know, they've done great. I can remember a game against Chelsea, 3-0 they beat them. What? Leeds United beating Chelsea? We got beat against Arsenal. That second half, we was absolutely brilliant in the second half. So we can do it. It's like that. And then now we've had a downer again. So the second half against Arsenal, we was kind of up there. If we could have started the next game from there, but we didn't. It's dropped down, and now we're building back up again. Now, as you've mentioned, we've got an eye game tonight. Gee whiz, Liverpool. Then we're talking about Bournemouth, and then we're going on and on. So let's get over, let's think about tonight. Hard game, but I tell you something, again for the people, I so wish I was playing tonight. I so wish, simply because these games, you love to play in. You know, the Man City, I'd love to play in Man City. Look at that centre forward. My goodness me, and people saying, how do you cope with that? And this is how you become an England player or a good player, because you have to set your mind right, and you've got to play against these top sides. It's no good saying, oh, well, I want to play against your lower sides. You want to play against your top sides. You do well against there, then you get people like George Best saying, I like you. And it works.
And do you think at the end of the season the Leeds can keep their place in the Premier League?
I'll tell you at the end of the season.
Good question. So, finally, Paul, we would like you to send a message to all our viewers who are watching tonight's show, please.
Yeah, just enjoy. I've spoken from how I was brought up. I mean, as a young boy, I wanted to be a professional football player. The young kids don't know what it is to get up there. It's difficult. When you get there, it is absolutely unbelievable, like I've been talking. So please enjoy your football. No matter who you support, just enjoy your football and have a look at the skills that these guys are actually doing, because there's some fantastic players out there, and they want to do well for you if you will support them. So just enjoy it, because they're doing their best to make you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, Paul.
Mela, dik kienet l-intervista illi kellna ma' Paul Rini. Ninsab konvint li ħattu kostarawa, kienet intervista interessantissima u jiena għalija nistqar li xi ħaġa minna tallimt ukoll. Biss il-mawra ta' Paul Rini ma kienx biss l-intervista ma' dawk l-erba' fitti tal-Kamra Sportiva. Il-mawra ta' Paul Rini kella diversi avvenimenti fosthom organizzati appuntu mill-Leeds United Supporters Club Malta, fosthom ikla mal-membri tagħhom kif ukoll ftuħ ta' wirja ta' memorabilia interessantissima relatata ma' Leeds United u ma' tim nazzjonali Ingliż kif ukoll laqa bejn Paul Rini u il-players illi lab kontrihom ġewwa Malta nhar 3 ta' Frar tal-1971. Ejja ħalli naraw din il-klip qasira fuq dawn l-avvenimenti kollha illi ġraw li wkoll nixtieq nirringrazzja lil Tonio Gallia tal-Leeds United Supporters Club li batilna dan il-materjal kollu biex ukoll inxandruh fuq dan il-programm. Naraw naqra x'għamlu issa il-ħbib tagħna ta' dan il-klabb u mbagħad niġu biex nagħlqu il-programm tagħna. Mela, mill-ġdid, grazzi lill-Leeds United Supporters Club Malta tal-li oġobhom ukoll ituna din l-opportunità li nintervistaw lil Paul Rini. Grazzi wkoll lil eabed.com tal-li wkoll ipprovdulna l-uffiċini tagħhom x'inkunu nistgħu nagħmlu din l-intervista. Grazzi wkoll tmur lill-sponsors regolari tagħna li huma Beauty Wisdom, Game Breaker, Kicks Boutique Gym u The Barber Room tal-kooperazzjoni kontinwa illi dawn in-nies jagħmlu mal-paġna tagħna tal-Kamra Sportiva. Nħeġġukom dejjem biex tużaw is-servizzi tagħhom għaliex indirettament tkunu qegħdin tgħinu wkoll lilna u jekk tippermettuli wkoll anke bħala editur ta' din il-paġna ngħid grazzi kbira lit-tim kollu tal-Kamra Sportiva li min bħala frontliner, bħalma f'dan il-każ kien Wayne Mikallef, u min minn wara l-kwinti bħalma din id-darba kienu James Side u Mark Schembri għenu biex ntellaw dina l-intervista min bil-preparazzjoni tal-iskeda, min bil-domandi, min ukoll kien miegħi fl-intervista. Naħseb illi kien a team effort illi jekk permettulu wkoll bħala l-editur ta' din il-paġna ninsab ferħan ħafna bih u niggarantilkom jien illi mhux ser ikun l-aħħar biċċa xogħol illi ser nagħtu lilkom is-segwaċi ta' din il-paġna. Infakkunkom ukoll jekk qed tilħqu din il-programm issa minn ftit ieħor dan se jkun fuq l-istazzjon uffiċjali tagħna ta' YouTube għal daqstant idħlu hemmhekk u meta jkollkom iċ-ċans araw il-video bil-kumdita kollha sakemm nerġgħu niltaqgħu għal programmi oħra fuq il-Kamra Sportiva. Jien Antonello Bella ma tfadalli xejn ngħidilkom ħlief li nisperaw li l-kontenut li pprovdejnilkom illum f'dan il-programm speċjali għaġobkom. Komplu segwu il-netwerk kollu tagħna tal-Kamra Sportiva u sakemm nerġgħu niltaqgħu saħħit. Risposta ġi wassal lilkom min Beauty Wisdom, ejjabed.com, Game Breaker, Kicks Boutique Gym u The Barber Room.